Um, Probably because he probably works like 60 or 70 or more hours a week doing his stuff, but he loves what he's doing. And Jared is with us tonight to talk about your BA career and how to boost it. So I'll turn it over to you, Jared. And Steve, are you going to present the slides, or is Jared going to do it?
I'll present the slides.
Okay, great.
I don't think Steve has the slides, so that's.
We will post them out though, if you don't mind, Jared, afterwards, and the recording will be posted too.
I don't think there's any sound. We'll share sound too.
Thank you.
This is awesome. So, good evening. This is odd because the last presentation I did was, I think it was good evening for me and good morning for them, or vice versa, or something. I speak around the world as the director of chapters and member engagement here at IIBA. It's funny when Bob was talking about volunteerism and you know, getting your feet wet, so to speak. I started off as a volunteer. I started off as a volunteer for the Calgary chapter, which is where I'm from. Went in to become a board member, and then proceeded to where I am now. I've been with IIBA as a full-time employee since 2017, and absolutely adore it. I love speaking to people. I love talking about business analysis. And if you give me the opportunity, I will talk forever about business analysis. But thankfully, Bob's going to keep me in track, hopefully. So a little bit about, before we get started here, I could not go anywhere without telling you what IIBA's vision is. And our vision is to shape the practice of business analysis to achieve better enterprise outcomes, right? The organizations that we work with and we work for, we want to help them succeed. We want them to have better outcomes. That's our vision, is to shape that practice. And we do that through our mission, which is to lead the global business analysis community and the professional standards so every person achieves more. And I love that last sentence. Every person achieves more. It doesn't matter in what context you look at. We want people to succeed. We want to do better tomorrow what we did well today. And that's part of our mission. So a little bit about tonight. For the agenda, we're going to talk about boosting your capabilities. How does that work? Bob stole a little bit of my thunder in certifications, but we'll go through certifications as well. And then I will give you some tips and tricks. So if you're going to that study group, which I highly recommend, there's some tips and tricks on how you can prepare for your exam, how you can prepare for the certification, and we'll go through that towards the end. Stop me if I start speaking too quickly, because when I get excited, I speak faster. And as I said, I love talking about business analysis, and this has been no exception. Also stop me if you have a question. No question is a silly question. I can answer them all, because under any context, they can mean different things. All right, so let's talk about boost your capabilities. So let's first of all talk about a little bit about International Institute of Business Analysis. Over 30,000 members and certification holders worldwide. We have 120 chapters in 40. So this is an old slide, so it's 44 countries now, and 153 countries, if I'm not mistaken. Over 500 corporate program, academic, and training partners around the world. And we have over 1,300 volunteers that help us on a daily basis. Bob and the board here in Sacramento, and Steve and whatnot, they're all volunteers. They are our local representation of IIBA. And it's interesting, someone said, you know, the reason that volunteers don't get paid is because they're absolutely priceless. You can't put a value on them. So I want to do that shout out to volunteers in every capacity. The certifications, we'll talk a little bit more, but we do have 7 certifications. We'll talk about those when we get into the certification section. A little bit about our IIBA benefits, and obviously I need to fix the slide a little bit, but you have access to our PDF and our interactive guides, whether that's the BABUC guide, the guide to business data analytics, the Agile extension, all of those guides you have access to. We have an online library with over 11,000 titles. So if you are looking for, well, my favorite book that has helped me enormously through my career is a book written by David Maister and a few of his colleagues called The Trusted Advisor. We have the PDF version of it in the online library. We have the audiobook on the online library, and we have the 20th anniversary audiobook in the online library. All of those are complimentary to IIBA members. So if you haven't already, check out the online library. It's definitely worth the price of admission. The Career Action Guide, which is in conjunction with the competency model, are a great opportunity for you to do a self-assessment on where you are in your career, right? You can look at how you stack up against the competency model and come up with a plan on how to get better, how to improve yourself, how to do better tomorrow what you did well today, which is a phrase that I use quite often. The self-assessment tool, as I said, is part of that Career Action Guide and competency model. Those three are kind of work in tandem. Discounts on events and certifications. So every year we have our annual conference called Building Business Capability. The savings on from being an IIBA member more than pays for your annual membership. Same with certifications. If you're looking out to get a certification, it makes a lot of sense to be a member. We prefer that you join the community and network, because that's really where I think the true value of membership is belonging to something bigger. And part of that is, of course, access to that global community. Like those 120 chapters that we have around the world, as an IIBA member, you can go to any of their meetings. So tonight I'll be in Sacramento. Tomorrow I could be in Philadelphia. I know Friday night, 10 o'clock my time, I'm going to be in India, virtually, of course. But yeah, you as an IIBA member, you have access to chapter events around the globe, and it's a huge advantage, right? So when we look at all of those benefits, it just makes a lot of sense. I think there's a lot of things you can use here, like between the self-assessment tool, you know, the access to the global community, that can really benefit you, can really add to your career capabilities and boost your confidence as well as your competency. It's a great thing. I'll get off that soapbox and stop talking about the benefits, but I did want to go through those guides, right? So the big orange book is what I refer to it as. The Babok Guide is a short 400-page document on the best practices and how to do business analysis. It is what many people call the gold standard for business analysis. It is our business analysis body of knowledge, which is what Babok stands for. The Agile Extension, which we worked with the Agile Alliance in creating it, on how to do business analysis from an Agile perspective. All of our guides are from a business analysis perspective. The competency model, the cybersecurity analysis, because cybersecurity is a big thing for organizations around the world. It's probably the number one thing that our CEO and our CIO and our executives worry about, is not if we're going to get attacked, but when we're going to get attacked. So thinking about cybersecurity from a business analysis perspective and really baking in that cybersecurity into what we create, as opposed to trying to bolt something on afterwards. Having that cybersecurity training in advance puts you in a good stead. The business analysis standard is essentially a subset of the Babok Guide. We've taken the techniques out. It's available everywhere. I mean, you can order it from Amazon. You do not have to be a member to download it. It is a complimentary PDF. It has the epitome of business analysis in it, and it's available to everybody. The Guide to Product Ownership Analysis, as well as the Guide to Business Data Analytics. And all of these guides help form what business analysis is. It helps to frame in from certain contexts, and context is everything in business analysis, as I'm sure you're aware, but it helps frame that particular perspective of business analysis. So those guides are key to our certifications. They're also key to performing solid business analysis. The other thing that we have is our Career Center, and that Career Center actually gives you the opportunity to search for jobs, post your resume, look for jobs if that's your case, if that's what you're looking for. It also has a benefit for our members in that you can get your resume reviewed by an expert reviewer. What they'll do is they'll go over your resume and see if you maybe need to touch up on this or clean this up, or if there's some areas that are causing some their concern. That review is available to all of our IIBA members, and it's something that a lot of our members aren't aware of. So just wanted to point that out. And you can obviously access the job board and career planning tools to help you boost your career. If I go over to the career action guide, and it's something that I used early on in my career, is going through the career action guide. So with the competency model, understand what the competencies are. So review the competency model and then evaluate and assess yourself. And there is a self-assessment tool. The PDF version was my preferred version as opposed to the online version, but you can do either way. And you basically say, in this particular area, I'm really strong, or I'm really weak, or whatnot, based on the questions in that particular section. And it helps evaluate and gives you an honest appraisal. I know there are some people that have gone through that and they've cheated the system and said that they were better at things than they were. Be truly honest with yourself when you do that evaluation, because it's going to show you where you need to focus to get your career to that next level, right? To get that plan in, because if you're not honest, if you're dishonest with yourself, you're not going to be happy with the results. The way that I used it is I went through it and I realized that my vendor management skills were negligible. At the time, I was working for an organization that had an entire vendor management group. So the reason that I was so poor at vendor management is because it wasn't part of my responsibilities. It wasn't something that I needed to do. So as part of my plan, what I did is I got to know some of the people in the vendor management team, came up with a plan to go for lunch with them, touch base with them, find out how they do things, how they interact with that. And then I acted on it and really increased my vendor management capabilities through that whole process. It was a great tool, got me to just elevate my capabilities as a business analysis professional. Next, I'm going to tell you about Knowledge Hub, which is our online repository. It actually has the guides that we already talked about inside Knowledge Hub, so you can ask it questions, you can find scenarios, you can find tips, tools, and templates. It's an online resource for all things business analysis. It's a great resource. So if you haven't checked out Knowledge Hub, I would suggest you do, because as I said, it is a really good resource. The one thing that I want to tell you is, so right now it's been, there's all this knowledge, we have all of these things that you can do and all these benefits, but really, Suzanne Ritchie, who's a friend of IIBA and a friend of one of my staff members, says your network is your net worth. And I love the quote that Suzanne gave to us. Really, it's a lot of what we do is built on relationships. It's built on relationships of who you know and how you know things and how you can connect the dots by connecting people. So networking is probably the #1 way that you're going to help your career. And we'll get in that a few slides, because it's as you progress through your career, it moves from what you know to who you know, and how you can leverage some of the capabilities of your network to help you succeed. And of course, I could not go on talk about networking without our chapters. Our chapters are globally bound, with us, 120 of them, including the one here in Sacramento. But networking outside of your domain, outside of your city, outside of your state, outside of your country, will always give you new perspectives. And the way that business analysis is performed in one particular area or one particular even company will not be identical to the way that they do things in another one. Case in point, we have one of our chapters, and I won't mention which one because I just won't, whose entire state, so they are in the US, but their entire state is very much controlled. It's very much regimented in the way that they do business analysis. So they're not a big agile community. They're very much waterfall because of that's the way that their community prefers to do business. And it's okay in that particular context. So going outside of that chapter, where maybe there's a chapter that is fully engulfed in the agile mindset and the agile methodology, completely foreign. Both of them are looking at similar problems through different perspectives, through different lenses, and you get that flavor by seeing how the other side works. So networking outside of your department is a huge plus for you to get to know how other departments do business, what motivates them, what they're doing, but it goes beyond the department. So looking at from a department to an organization to a enterprise level, like various enterprises, to different cities, different states. No one does things intentionally wrong, but they might have some tidbits of information that will help you do things better, just because it's a different perspective. So networking is your net worth, and I highly recommend you network outside of your regular circles whenever possible to get that different viewpoint, that different perspective. So I talked a little bit about this before, and you know, when you first become a business analysis professional, it's really about what you know, right? What do I know about business analysis? What do I know? How do I do things and whatnot? In stage two, it's when you're more skilled, more senior. It's who you know, how I can connect this VP with this VP, and how I can help them get their success. How I can connect people and leverage strengths from other teams and from other people. It's interesting, a number of years ago, I was at a conference and they were talking about business analysis as a type of con man. And at first I was a little bit taken aback. I was a little bit disappointed in that view. But at the same time, as business analysis professionals, we sometimes look and manipulate things, not in a bad way, but we manipulate things to, uncover truths, uncover unknowns, and to help, get to success. So in that stage two, who you know is really, really important as we uncover those truths. And then stage three, that executive, it's who knows you. And those top two stages are very much about building relationships. And the one thing that has got me further in my career than anything else is the ability to build relationships with various stakeholders, even conflicting stakeholders, and being that proverbial glue that connects them and helps them into the same way of thinking and into the same direction, so that we can all succeed together. Your career is going to be defined in these three stages, and networking and relationships are a huge part of this career progression. So pay heed to that. All right, so let's talk a little bit about certifications. We'll talk a little bit about earning power. Now, this is from 2021, so it's a couple years old, but people that hold at least one certification, according to our research, earn about 12% more. That's pretty cool. It also gives you the confidence to do better business analysis. The one thing that I hear over and over from business analysis professionals around the world is the imposter syndrome. right? I'll be better next week, or so-and-so's a better business analysis professional than I am, or can do this better because I only know what I know, and I don't know as much as I think I know. But I think having that certification in your back pocket doesn't make you an expert. And I will argue with anyone who thinks that a certification makes them an expert. What the certification does is it proves that you know the content, you know how to apply it, you know how to think properly and how to take different perspectives. It does not make you an expert by any stretch. That comes through practice. And that's why we call business analysis practice. We are always learning new things. We're always applying new techniques. We're always looking to, and I'll say this again, do things better tomorrow what we did well today, right? We're always trying to improve. When we look at the research that we got from the certifications, most people get the benefit of their certifications within the first year, which is phenomenal. I know at the organization when I got my certification back in 2008 was they were a little bit, well, business analysis wasn't as recognized as it is now, and they had various ways of doing things, and I didn't know any better. I'm like, okay, well, that's the way you want to do business analysis. That's great. And then joined IIBA, got my certification, and then realized that there were tools and techniques that were being used globally to do business analysis. And if we applied them in a uniform way, we could get better results, right? Those better enterprise outcomes. So by following the Babok guide and following best practices, we took a monumental leap forward. And having that certification in my back pocket gave me the confidence to stand up and say, hold on a second, you maybe want to do business analysis this way, but the globally recognized body says we should be doing this. And having that power behind me gave me a lot of confidence and ultimately led to a lot of success in the projects that I was on. That was a long time ago, though. So yeah, 92% of the respondents, recommend certification to support their career development. That certification doesn't make you an expert, like I said, but it certainly gives you a lot of confidence, and it will help support your career development for sure. So let's talk a little bit about certifications. We have the ECBA, the Entry Certificate of Business Analysis, which we have about 8,800 globally, about 34 in the Sacramento Valley area. Then we have our next level up, which is our Certificate of Competency in Business Analysis, about 1,200 worldwide and about 4 here in Sacramento.
Hey, Jared, can I ask a question, or do you have to wait until the end?
No, go ahead. Bring it on.
Now, I just bought a book to study for the ECBA. It's not really, doesn't seem to be too loaded with questions. Do you have any, do you recommend any material to read and study and take the ECBA? And needless to say, I do want to take my professional, the CBAP probably later this year. But right now, I just want to do the ECBA. Do you have any? Do you recommend any?
So the thing that I would recommend most, if you're only going to read one book, I would read the Business Analysis Standard. It gives you the bulk of the information. It's 54 pages long, if I'm not mistaken. That would be the first one.
Which one again? That was the Business Analysis Standard book?
We just call it the Standard now. It's kind of morphed in names. But I would start with the Standard, the Babok Guide, of course, if you can stay awake, because it's very dry reading. It's a textbook. It's not a novel. But between those two, you should have enough to pass the ECBA. I know a couple of people in our service desk decided they were going to take the ECBA. They basically read the Babok Guide and then wrote it one weekend. The ECBA is about learning I won't say it's memorization, but it's not how to apply things. It really is, what does this term mean? What does that term mean? It is an entry certificate. There's no And we'll
I'm
get
gonna-
into this a little bit later.
I'm going to share my screen. This is the book that I bought.
Yeah, that's from who's that from? That Watermark?
No, it's Business Knowledge Academy, Knowledge Academy, I think it is.
So if you've already got a guide that's designed specifically for the ECBA, it'll have all the information you need in it.
Some of the Watermark books don't say ECBA. They're one certificate up, the CCBA or the CBAP. So
And Frank, the three exams, we'll get into that in a little bit, but the three exams are all essentially based on the Babok guide. So they have the same core information. The ECBA is, as I said, is very much, do you know what this term is? The CCBA is, can you, in this scenario, or in this, I'm going to get it wrong, one's case study, one's a scenario. I think it's a scenario. In this scenario, what tool or technique do you think would be the best? Whereas the CBAP or the CBAP is very much, okay, here's a case, how would you approach it? So the ECBA is very, as I said, memorization. The CCBA is more, it's got a lot of memorization in it, but it also how to apply it. And the CBAP is very much how to apply it. It's not going to ask you the definition.
Real quick before I let you go, what was the two books you mentioned? This the Business Analysis Standard book, and what was the other one? The Babcock?
With the Babok guide.
Babcock guide. Thank you.
Yeah, the online library has a couple of study guides for CCBA and CBAP. And if you study for the CCBA or CBAP, you'll have no problem passing the ECBA whatsoever. Yeah.
Okay. Thank
They're
you.
all, as I said, they're all based on the Babok guide because they're all part of our core certification grouping. We continue the AAC, or the Agile Analysis Certificate. I had to think what the middle A was for a second. 725 globally, and just one in Sacramento. The CBDA, the Certified Business Data Analytics, we've got over 250, again with one in Sacramento. The Cybersecurity, 300 with none. And then the Certified Product Ownership Analysis Certificate is a jumbo jet, I guess, globally. So if you look at these two columns, the column on the left is what we call our core certifications, and the column on the right is our specialty certifications. There's different requirements for each of those, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. So I mentioned before about the confidence in certifications, and according to our Global State of Business Analysis from 2021, and it hasn't changed much over the years, the higher confidence at work is a huge portion of that, right? It gives you the confidence to say, yes, I understand what business analysis is. Yes, I understand how to apply it. Yes, I can tackle better projects because I know what the base and the best practices are. That certification absolutely leads to higher confidence at work. Greater fulfillment, salary increase, help me find a job. Someone actually said no perceived benefit. A statistically valid answer. It certainly would help you improve your ratings, your performance review, led to promotion, or all of the above. So as I said, that higher confidence at work is probably the biggest part of it. Go a little bit into the certifications and what they are. The ECBA being the entry level doesn't have any work experience required. There's no knowledge area expertise required. You do have to have some professional development, which I think Bob referred to as PD hours. The study group will conveniently, Bob, and I kind of laughed when you said this, but it will give you 35 hours towards PD hours, which for your CBAP is exactly what you need. You have to have references in the two advanced ones, and we ask that you recertify in the CCBA and the CBAP. And that's just so that you're continuously sharpening your proverbial saw, right? You're keeping up with trends, you're keeping up with business analysis. And in both of those advanced certifications, you need 60 continuing development units every 3 years. The CCBA and the CBAP are the only two exams we offer that are available online or in a testing center. All of our other certifications are entirely online. We're looking at perhaps changing that a little bit, but at the moment, that's the way it stands. When we look at our specialty certifications, very similar. The AAC and the CBDA both require a recertification, but rather than every 3 years, it's every year. It's only 20 CDUs as opposed to the 60 for the other two. Again, they're all online proctored exams with various either scenario or actually, I guess there are no case studies here. There are multiple choice questions. The CCA and CPOA have no recertification requirements. All right, let's give you some of my tips and tricks on how to pass your certification, how to get through the exam part. I like to refer to this as the study cycle. And the first thing I always want to do is understand the content. And Frank, you brought up the point, get some sort of guide or whatnot, some sort of book, some sort of content that will help you define what you're trying to study. So again, if you're trying to do the ECBA or the CBAP, one of the core certifications, you probably want to look at the BABUP guide. Maybe you want a watermark study guide. Maybe you want another study guide. But at the end of the day, you need to understand the content that's going to be on the exam. If you're studying for your CBDA, you probably want to look at the Guide to Business Data Analytics, which would be that content. Whatever the case, you need to know the information, right? Then you need to review it. So don't just read the book once. I would actually go through and read it multiple times and then review what I learned, because it's not just reading it. You have to actually comprehend it. You have to be able to interpret it on the exam. Test yourself, and that's one of the great things that Watermark has, is that test bank of questions. Give yourself an opportunity to test yourself to see if you really do understand the content. Because I'm saying I understand the content is great, but unless I test myself, how do I know that's true? Am I fooling myself? Am I like, yeah, okay, I read the book. I fell asleep through this chapter, or I was distracted in this chapter and didn't really pick anything up. But yeah, I read the book, so I'm good to go. Testing yourself will tell you where your issues might be. So test yourself, and you can do that through study guides and question banks that like Watermark has.
Thank you.
And then of course analyze the gaps. So if you realize that test yourself and in this one section I did poorly, okay, so go back and do that again. Maybe spend more time understanding the content from that chapter. Maybe spend more time reviewing it. Maybe test yourself again and kind of go through that study cycle over and over again until you're fully versed in it. I know that when I studied for my CBAP exam, I used actually it wasn't online at the time, because we used pretty much chisels and slates back then, but going through the appropriate guide. So I went through the BABUP guide, read it cover to cover, a very painful exercise. As I said, it's not a novel. It's not something that you can do for long periods, but I went through the appropriate guide, and then I went through it again and I made notes. I made notes about the which step has to happen after this step, which step precedes this step, so that I knew in order how everything functioned. I took notes and took notes and took notes and took notes again. And then what I did is I had a practice exam. I had a practice exam for each of the knowledge areas. And what I would do is I would go through the practice exam, I would take it, and then I would realize, okay, I only got 60%. Why did I get those 40% wrong? I would go through and I would review the questions and say, okay, well, I got this one wrong because I didn't think of it from this perspective, or I didn't do this, or whatnot. And then I would take the test again, and I would invariably get better And some of the questions that I got right the first time I get wrong because maybe I was thinking it from a different perspective again. I did that until I got 90% on the practice exam. Then I went to the next knowledge area, did the same thing. Next knowledge area did the same thing, and so on and so forth. And then I did them all in succession until I got 90% on each one of them, one after the other. And then I took a practice exam for the entire syllabus. So rather than having it broken out chapter by chapter, or sorry, knowledge area by knowledge area, I took a practice exam, which is 150 multiple choice questions, and went through the exam that way. It really, really helped reinforce all of the right things and help me avoid some of the wrong things. Analyze my weaknesses, and that's kind of what I did when I went through and said, why did I get these answers wrong? Why did I get these answers right? Look through and analyze my weaknesses, and then I repeated it. Repetition is a great part of studying. It really helped me through that. I really wish I would know what my actual mark was. All I know is some short 8 weeks later, they told me that I'd passed the exam. That's way back in the day when it was only proctored on pencil and paper, and then you had to wait for them to send the exam away. You had to wait for them to then mark it, and then wait for them to mail you, not even email you, but mail you your results. It was the longest 8 weeks of my life. From a proctoring perspective, and this is definitely something that if you're going to do any of the exams online, these are pretty important. But I would definitely suggest you use your personal computer and not a work computer. And the reason I would suggest that is because work computers invariably block for certain things. They're not going to let you. They're going to prevent you with things, and there's VPNs and whatnot. And they're just use a personal computer that you have complete access to. It'll save you a lot of headaches. Make sure that you have an operating system that is advanced enough to run not to run the exam, but to be proctored. If you're running on an old computer on Windows 3.1, probably won't work because they probably won't be able to access your computer remotely to proctor. High bandwidth, 300 kilobytes per second is not a lot, but because you have someone that's basically watching you via webcam, you do want to make sure that you have a sufficient bandwidth to allow for that. And then a microphone and camera. They're going to watch you do. I've never taken an online exam, but I know one of my staff members has, and she was saying that she had a cold, so every time she grabbed a Kleenex, she had to show the Kleenex front and back to the camera. At the beginning of the session, she had to take her camera and pan around the room to make sure that on the far wall there wasn't, a cheat sheet or anything. Microphone and camera are absolutely necessary. And then, in your room, it's got to be quiet, well lit, and uncluttered. I know I've been talking about taking the CBDA exam for, the last few years, but I can't spend enough time cleaning my office to actually go through with it. So when I'm ready, I think I may actually just get a hotel room with strong enough internet and take the exam from there. It'll just be easier than trying to clean my office because it's relatively uncluttered. It's relatively well lit and relatively quiet, but it's probably not uncluttered enough for me to take the exam. So with that, I'll take more questions on anything you heard tonight, anything you missed from tonight, or anything at all.
Jared, this is Bob. I do want to mention that on our Sac Valley IABA webpage, our website, one of our web pages, we have a bunch of links at the bottom of the web page that talk about certification and practice. There's some free practice tests, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll throw that in the chat window too in a minute.
That'd be awesome, Bob. Yeah, anything that we can do to help you succeed is a good thing. Apart from giving you the answers, which I can't.
There's a question in the chat, Jared. It's talking about work hours requirement for CBAP. Do we get a manager approval for that, and how do we go about that requirement?
So was the 7,500 hours for the CBAP or 3,750 for CCBA. Basically, what you do on your application is you look back at all of the business analysis work you've done in the last, I think it's 10 years. You do not need a manager approval or whatnot. Go through your Outlook. If you've been with an organization for like just a single organization, hopefully you have Outlook so you can see all your meetings that you've had in the past X number of years. The thing that I always impress upon people that are applying for an exam or applying for one of the certifications is just because you hit 7,500 hours, don't stop. Show all of the work that you've done. Show that you've done, this project and you were responsible for, leading the facilitation efforts. This one you were reviewing vendor, doing RFPs and whatnot. Whatever the case is, include more, because one of the things that the system will do is it'll look and say, well, that's not a business analysis activity, so you're going to discount those hours. So as soon as, if you only had 7,500 hours and they discount even 100 hours of your work, now you don't have enough. So I think on my application, I think there was almost 10,000 hours in it. So overstate it, and obviously, I mean, I look at it kind of like the weather. I know exactly what the weather is right now, and I have a good idea what it's going to be tomorrow, and I have less of a good idea about what it's going to be the day after that. And the further out we get, the more unsure things are. And the same holds true for your application. That the stuff that you're doing right now, you absolutely know that, that I've spent X number of months on this project, and I've done these business analysis activities, and based on my calendar, it amounts to 250 hours. But 5 years ago, yeah, I was on this project and I kind of did this, and I kind of going to estimate. Go ahead and estimate it. Do your best, be as specific as possible, but don't be afraid to say, you know what, I'm in 2012, I did 4 projects, and I basically did 20 hours a week on these 4 projects over the course of the year, and it counts for X number of hours. Just do it as detailed as you can, but don't be afraid to overestimate. No, sorry, not overestimate, but don't be afraid to go over the estimated hours.
Garrett, I just want to add one thing to this, Bob. And we cover it in the Babcock study group too, but Watermark has a free tool that you could download. It's an Excel file, and it helps you plan out your hours, because ultimately, you need to take almost line by line what's in that spreadsheet, and you need to enter it into the IABA site to get credit for those hours. But Watermark has a pretty nifty tool where like say you worked on a project and it was 1,000 hours, and they'll say, what percentage of your time did you spend in each of the knowledge areas? And then it'll convert that into the actual hours. So it'll do that project by project, and then you could add up the totals. It has a thing where it sums the totals, and you can make sure that you met the requirement for like CBAP. It's over, I think, 900 hours in 4 different knowledge areas. So, I mean, the short of it is Watermark has a ton of information. So I would definitely look at their website.
Absolutely. I think any chance you get to use a tool that's going to help you, especially even just provide the framework for you to put in those hours, is fantastic. Didn't have any of that when I was doing my certification. So I do have an Excel sheet somewhere, and I'm not sure if I've saved it or not, but yeah, use that tool if you have it. Did that answer the question, by the way? Let me see.
Thanks. There was another question in the chat that I answered, but I'll read it out loud for everyone else. Do you have to take the CCBA or CBAP before you can take the AAC certification?
No, you did not need, there is no certification prerequisite for any of our certifications. So you could take the ECBA and then, well, you could just take the ECBA. You could take the CBAP and then, I don't know why you'd want to, but you could take the ECBA afterwards. There is no prerequisite for any of sorry, there's no prerequisite certification for any of our certifications.
Cool.
There are prerequisites for the certifications themselves, but not in a certification. The ECBA, so Frank, not that it's going to be a big change, but we are going to be changing the ECBA certification this year. Some of the questions have just been out too long, so we're going to be replacing some of the questions.
How soon? A few more months?
Yeah, but and even then, I mean, whether it's the current bank of certification questions or the new bank, it'll still test what the ECBA is. So if you understand the content, the whichever question bank you get isn't going to change anything.
I'm gonna try and take it probably by the end of next month. I mean, like you said, the reading, it seems like to be a lot of theory. I understand it. There's just not a lot of multiple choice questions in the book. It did list a web address. I think I can. I think there's a couple of practice tests I can take. I think it's 40 or 50 questions. I'm guessing 50. Most tests seem to be around 50 questions.
Sounds boring.
That's all. It's just to, show my boss the initiative to doing this. And then of course I do want to get the professional one as well, probably later this year. Well, I do want to go through this study class that you guys are putting on. It starts next March, I guess it is.
Yeah, March 6th,
So,
Now, real quick on that, do you guys know what night that's going to fall on?
Wednesdays.
Wednesdays and then from what time? 6 to 8?
Generally it's 6 to 8. The last two sessions go 6 to 8:30 to make the full 35 hours.
Okay. Yeah, I could probably do that. So
Frank, I'm gonna be fully transparent with you. If you're planning on taking the CBAP later this year, I would probably put my effort and my money into getting the CBAP as opposed to the ECBA. Completely up to you, but I don't know that I want to go through an exam and application twice. Actually, there's no application for the ECBA, but I don't know if I'd want to do that twice.
yeah, I know it makes sense. I kind of thought about it. Since I did buy the book, I'm probably gonna try and at least just take it and see if I can pass. I don't know.
If you've already got the experience and you're vying for the CBAP, you probably already have much of the knowledge. I wouldn't say don't study for it, but you probably have much of the knowledge you have to pass the ECBA.
How many years of BA experience do you have, Frank?
I've been in the BA unit now a little over 2 years, actively working on a couple of projects.
Yeah,
You
and
probably wouldn't have the work experience for the CBAP anyways.
yeah, CBAP you need about 5 years to get all the hours in.
Right.
But the ECBA is generally for people just coming out of school that really don't have any work experience. So I would reach a little higher if you can for the ECBA. Look at the requirements that Jared went through and, make sure that you're comfortable with them.
Okay.
But yeah, the ECBA is probably where you want to get the most bang for your buck.
The one story that I like to tell with ECBA is there was a young lady in Hawaii who really wanted to break into business analysis, but it's the old adage, right? We won't hire you because you don't have any experience. Well, you can't get experience because you won't hire me, and that evolutionary door. So she took the ECBA exam and she says, listen, I don't have any experience. I get that. But I've got this certification. I've got the desire. I've got the drive to do it. I need you just to give me a chance. And last I heard, she's doing fantastically well. As a business analysis professional, I think she's been, I think if memory serves, she's now getting ready to write the CBAP exam because she's been doing the work for the last 4 or 5 years. So yeah, you know, that again, that confidence that certification gives you is a big step.
Frank, if you could throw your email address, if you don't mind, in the chat. There's a guy where I work at. His name is Dennis Schall. Of course, I'll have to ask him first if he's okay doing this, but he just got his ECBA. He
Yeah.
also got his AAC, his Agile, after we also run an Agile study group in the fall. So he was in it. He took the Agile test. He passed. He was, you know, psyched. He was motivated. He went for the ECBA. He signed up for his own personal watermark. Like he could kind of tell you what he did to be successful. But of course, I have to check with him first. But first, I need your email address if you want him to be in touch with you on how he did it.
Absolutely. Give me just a second here. I'm giving you my email and my cell phone.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm sure Dennis will probably reach out to you, but you know, again, I need to check with him first.
No, I understand. I appreciate that.
Mhm.
And Bob, I did want to make one comment, something you said earlier about the new chapter engagement platform. You're in group 3, which puts you into migration territory towards the end of April.
April, like this year.
Yes.
Okay,
Our goal is
that's
to
good to know.
have all of our chapters on the new platform by the end of summer. Well, that might be a little bit ambitious, but you got to have goals in life, right?
Exactly.
Oh, end of summer. I saw earlier that it was just end of 2024. So accelerated a little.
Just a little, yeah.
If there aren't any other questions, I'm going to share my screen. I've got 3 raffle prizes that we'll do, and then we can close out. So let me just share this really quick. Share screen. My computer has issues, so I'm not using the wheel of names this time. But I found that Menti has a feature for it. Can you guys see the wheel?
Yep.
Okay. So the wheel of names, if you win, it takes your name off. But I couldn't get that to work for this. So everybody, if you win, you just get to win once. So let's see, enter to spin. Here we go. Okay. It's pretty choppy, so maybe you didn't even see it spin.
Barely.
Okay, we'll try this. Try number 2. Okay, so Bonnie wins 1. All right. Brad, there we
Cool.
go. And then 1 more. Jerron.
Again.
Again. Yes. You got to save these
Well,
up,
well,
Jerron.
it's about time. Once a month, I win this, guys.
All
Well,
right.
thank you, Steve.
Yes.
Congrats to everybody.
So I'm going to stop sharing, and then Bob, if you want to wrap it up.
Sure. And Ron, I just sent you a chat message to see if you had interest in something. So thank you all. I think we lost a few along the way, but you know, all the important people are here still, right?
Does Jared have an
thanks
email address he can provide?
for me?
Jared, yeah, the one doing the.
Oh,
Of course I
Jared.
can.
Yeah, you're gonna put that in the chat, Jared?
Yeah.
And Jared, thank you so much for your time. I know you're a very busy individual, and that was great information. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Jared.
No
Agreed.
problem, man. I'm always loving to talk to people about business analysis. Yeah, it's fantastic.
All right. Well, thank you all and have a good night.
Thanks, everyone.
All
Thanks,
right.
everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.